Beretta M38A submachine gun. Moschetto Automatico Beretta Modello 1938 emerged from Tullio Marangoni's Beretta lineage that ran from the Velar Corrosa through the Mod 18-1830. Initial procurement in 1938 equipped colonial police, and a refined MAB-38A followed as the Army pattern in 1941 after trimming features like the bayonet lug and revising the muzzle compensator. This is a simple blowback design firing primarily from an open bolt, managed by a two-trigger control scheme, forward for semi-automatic, rear for full automatic. Early guns used a floating firing pin and an automatic safety on the open bolt. Both were deleted to speed production. A non-reciprocating charging handle sits on the right behind a sliding dust cover, and cases eject to the left. Muzzle brakes and compensator ports changed across variants, and late war models adopted sheet steel components and a fixed firing pin. Chambering is 9 by 19 mm, frequently with the hotter Italian M38 service load. Muzzle velocities around 420 meters per second on early 38A guns and roughly 380 meters per second on later simplified models produced practical accuracy at short range and useful reach to about 200 meters in skilled hands. Production spanned 1938 to the mid-1970s, with roughly 1 million examples across wartime and post-war marks. German contracts in 1944-45 produced large wartime quantities under MP738I and MP739I designations, and post-war Model 2-3-4-5 series carried the platform into the Cold War. Field reports consistently describe a robust, reliable submachine gun praised by elite Italian units, German paratroopers, and even Allied users who encountered captured guns. After the 1943 armistice, issue broadened across Italian Social Republic units and partisans alike, shaping close-range fighting. Carcano M9138 carbine. The Carcano family begins with the Fucile Modello 1891, a small-bore smokeless system built around a Mannlicher-type N-block clip. Interwar ordnance sought improved terminal performance with the 7.35 by 51 mm round and short rifles, adopted in 1937, before logistics concerns in 1939 returned production to the original 6.5 by 52 mm. Late war planning brought back a long rifle as the Mod 41, and a parallel contract for Japan delivered the Type I with a Carcano action and a Mauser-style magazine. Mechanically, the action uses simple locking lugs, a distinctive bolt sleeve safety, and a 6-round internal magazine loaded by a symmetrical clip that drops out the bottom when empty. Early barrels used gain twist rifling. Later production, including the Mod 41, used conventional rifling. Short rifle doctrine standardized fixed sights, about 200 meters on M38 and 300 meters on M9138, based on the assumption that most engagements occurred inside those distances. Production ran across multiple arsenals: Terni, Brescia, Turin, Torre Annunziata, Rome, and firms including Beretta and Fabbrica Nazionale d'Armi, totaling several million rifles through 2 world wars. Short rifles and carbines proliferated late as simplifications, and German occupation forces after September 1943 redesignated captured stocks for second-line issue. In field service, the system provided acceptable accuracy within doctrinal ranges and proved straightforward to maintain. Finland received 7.35 mm short rifles and reported dissatisfaction tied to non-standard ammunition and fixed sighting. Variants cover the long rifle M91, cavalry carbines with folding bayonets, the TS carbine for special troops, the 91-24 conversions, the 7.35 and 6.5 short rifle families of 1938, and the Mod 41. The platform's long service life and wide redistribution gave it a broad cultural footprint, later amplified by the M9138 Short Rifles Association with the 1963 Dallas assassination. Beretta Modello 30 light machine gun. Beretta's squad automatic weapon developed from interwar attempts to remedy shortcomings of earlier Italian LMGs. Following the 5C and 29 prototypes, the Fucile Mitragliator Beretta Modello 30 entered service in 1930 as the most numerous automatic weapon in infantry sections. Organization evolved to place at least 1 and later 2 per squad to anchor the section's fire.
The Modello 30 LMG fires from a closed bolt and uses a fixed right-side hinged 20-round magazine loaded via stripper clips. Beretta included an oiler to ease extraction, particularly with the 6.5mm service round. The barrel can be changed, though the moving barrel group means sights shift unless re-established. Chamberings included the 6.5 by 52mm service cartridge, limited 7.35 conversions, and export runs in 7 by 57 and 7.92 by 57. Production continued through World War II, including deliveries under the Italian Social Republic for German users. Units adapted drills to keep clips continuously moving and to reduce stall time. Beretta M1934 pistol. Beretta's Model 1934 arose from 1930s procurement for a compact service sidearm, with the Army accepting the design mid-decade and production running for decades afterward. The pistol served as the standard sidearm of the Royal Italian Army and migrated into police and foreign inventories in large numbers. Captured examples received German Pistol 671I markings during the war. The action is simple blowback with Beretta's characteristic open slide that provides a long ejection port and reliable case clearance. A single-column 7-round magazine feeds 9x17 Corto, the direct counterpart of the American .380 ACP, and fixed sights keep the top strap uncluttered. The mechanism uses few parts and is easy to maintain in service. One operational quirk is the lack of an automatic last-round hold-open. Muzzle velocities around 290 meters per second from the short barrel and effective ranges on the order of 40 meters align with its role as a personal defense weapon for officers, NCOs, and crew-served weapon teams. Total output reached well over 1 million units, and production stretched into the early 1990s in various forms. Service markings and acceptance stamps vary across Army, Navy, and Air Force examples, and police pistols carry different legends. Beretta 37 medium machine gun. Beretta Model 37 machine gun entered service in 1937 as the principal medium or heavy machine gun for infantry sections and vehicle mounts. The design scaled features from the 13.2mm M31 to an infantry caliber suitable for sustained fire from a tripod on vehicles and for some anti-air roles. This is a gas-operated system with a rising block locking mechanism. Feed uses rigid 20-round steel strips inserted from the left. As the gun cycles, spent cases are reinserted into the strip, and the empty carrier exits to the right. Barrels are air-cooled and intended for quick changes on a schedule. Crew drill expected a swap roughly every few hundred rounds to manage heat. The cartridge is 8 by 59mm Beretta, delivering muzzle velocities around 800 meters per second and practical effectiveness to about a kilometer. The cyclic rate sat in the mid-400s per minute with a practical rate around 200 given the strip feed and cooling routine. The tripod and gun together approach 40 kilograms, which influenced mobility and emplacement choices. Manufacture ran through the war with exports to Spain, later Portuguese service as the M/938, and widespread German use of captured stocks. Some units used hand-cranked gear to strip and reload spent carriers. In comparison to belt-fed contemporaries like the German MG42, it produced less sustained fire but could deliver stable, aimed bursts from a solid mount, and it served extensively on vehicles such as the AS-42. Brixia Model 35 mortar. Brixia Model 35 entered service in 1935 as a compact 45mm company-level mortar intended for rapid, precise curtains of fire rather than heavy demolition. It accompanied infantry across theaters from North Africa to the Balkans and Russia, and remained in use into the post-war period in limited roles. German users designated captured examples 4.5cm GRW 176I. Unlike simple drop-fire light mortars, the Brixia uses a trigger-fired mechanism with separate ignition cartridges that feed from a small magazine. A two-man crew operates the piece, with the loader maintaining the sequence while the gunner controls lay and firing via a lever and trigger. Elevation runs from low angles up to near vertical.
Ammunition consists of a small HE round of roughly 45 millimeters diameter and about half a kilogram total mass, propelled to around 83 meters per second for a maximum range in the low hundreds of meters. Well-trained crews could achieve high short-term rates of fire, although doctrine limited sustained cadence to prevent tube wear. The explosive effect is modest and fragmentation limited. The mortar's complexity demanded careful training and maintenance, and field reliability suffered in dirty conditions compared to simpler drop-fire systems. Organizational tables in surviving documents vary on exact per-battalion counts. Visual details such as the padded rear legs and the crew's prone or seated firing posture help communicate how it differed for more familiar 60 and 81 millimeter patterns.
Fucile Anticarro S. Solothurn's S-18 series came from a Swiss firm under German ownership, a structure that allowed development of large-caliber arms between the wars. Italy bought the 20x138B chambered S-18x1000 around 1940 and designated it as the Fucile Anticarro S, deploying it primarily on vehicles and light mounts where weight and recoil could be managed. The family also included the earlier S-18x100 in 20x105B and the select-fire S-18x1100. Mechanically, the rifle is recoil-operated, semi-automatic in the 100 and 1000 variants, with a detachable box magazine usually holding 10 rounds. The substantial muzzle brake is not merely a recoil aid. Crews matched brake designs to ammunition class to ensure proper cycling. Receivers and barrels are long and heavy. The 20x138B cartridge, with its belted case, delivers early war penetration and range against lightly armored targets. Practical employment by infantry on foot proved unrealistic for long movements, so units favored mountings on vehicles and tankettes where the piece could serve in an anti-materiel and light anti-armor role. Procurement numbers remained modest across all users. In Italian service, it appears frequently in North African contexts and remained in use with Italian Social Republic forces after the armistice. Beretta M191830. Beretta's shoulder arm grew out of the Villaperosa twin-barrel aircraft gun by converting half of that system into a carbine-like firearm at the end of World War I. The Mod 1918 served late in that conflict and in interwar actions. During the 1930s, many were overhauled into the Mod 191830 pattern, redefining the mechanism while retaining the general format for police and military users. The earliest 1918 used a top-loading magazine that relied in part on gravity for feed and functioned as a semi-automatic blowback arm. The 191830 conversion moved to a closed-bolt design with a loose firing pin cocked by a guide rod accessible at the rear of the receiver. Feed shifted to straight-box magazines inserted from beneath, and many conversions kept a folding bayonet from the earlier style. Ammunition history includes 9mm Glicenti per mitragliatrici, an enhanced load compared to standard Glicenti pistol ammunition, and some later uses in 9x19mm. The format occupied the space between rifles and true submachine guns, providing faster follow-up shots from a handy package. The lineage anticipates features of later Beretta SMGs, with the twin-trigger concept reappearing in the Model 38 family, and the transition from top-to-bottom feed aligning with modern ergonomics.
Carcano M91 Truppi Speciali addressed the needs of artillerymen, engineers, naval detachments, and assault troops who required a shorter, handier long arm than the standard rifle. Production of the pattern began in the late 1990s, and by the end of World War I, hundreds of thousands had been built. After the war, Italy cut down large numbers of long rifles into 91-24 carbines. New TS production resumed in 1928 and continued until the 1938 transition toward the Mod 38 TS. Mechanically, the carbine shares the Carcano family action, magazine, and en-bloc clip. Barrel length around 455 millimeters required sight regradation from long rifle scales, and armorers paid close attention to front-end hardware because disassembly and reassembly could disturb zero. The TS nose cap and bayonet interface are distinct. The perpendicular lug with a rear push button differs from fixed underbarrel bayonets and resists recoil-induced disengagement. In service, the shorter length improved handling in crowded gun positions, trenches, and ships. OTO Modelo 35 hand grenade.
OT's Model 35 formed part of a standardized family of grenades alongside the SRCM and Beretta patterns. Service entry in 1935 placed it in soldiers' kit through the Spanish Civil War and World War II. British troops in North Africa referred to red-painted Model 35 grenades as Red Devils, a nickname that attached itself to the family in period accounts. The grenade uses an all-ways-acting percussion fuse that arms in flight. The user withdraws a pull strip with an attached safety element. Aerodynamic force removes the lever, allowing the internal striker to function on impact. Construction uses a two-piece aluminum body secured by a thin wire ring to maintain internal clearances. A lead ball and shot assembly sits between the cap and spring-loaded striker, intentionally designed to fragment into small pieces on detonation, so no single heavy mass flies back toward the thrower. The explosive filling is TNT, in a charge of roughly 30 dozen grams, producing a light fragmentation effect suited to offensive use where the thrower might be advancing. The arming sequence requires time and distance, and dirt and debris could interfere with the close-fitting internal parts, potentially causing misfires or unsafe behavior if not maintained. Fucili Matrice Modello 37. The infantry pattern had a vehicle companion in the Beretta 38, which adapted the rising block action to armored and reconnaissance mounts with a top-feed box magazine and a heavier barrel profile. Italian tankettes and armored cars carried it widely as coaxial and flexible guns, and German catalogs recorded stocks for redeployment under their own designations. Using the same operating core as the infantry gun simplified training and spares, while the revised feed and furniture suited cramped interiors and turret ergonomics. The top-mounted magazine eliminated the 20-round steel strip system of the tripod gun, a practical change inside vehicles, where belt or strip handling complicates crew workflow. Ejection and case management were tidier in closed mounts, and the heavier barrel tolerated longer bursts when cooling air was limited. Controls shifted toward pistol grip layouts and remote or linkage triggers depending on installation, allowing gunners to keep hands on traverse and elevation wheels while firing. Where dismounted crews wrestled with tripods and ammunition strips, vehicle crews treated the mechanism as a compact, beltless package that integrated neatly with periscopes and sighting gear. Chambered in 8 by 59 mm Beretta, the vehicle gun delivered the same flat trajectory and effective range as the M37, but, mounting on stabilized cradles and firm pintles, translated that ballistics into steadier fire on the move. Typical employment paired a coaxial gun for sighting and suppression with a flexible mount for anti-personnel use around the vehicle, giving reconnaissance patrols a reliable volume of small-caliber fire without the space penalties of belt boxes. Compared to German and British vehicle guns, it offered less sheer burst length than belt-fed systems, but repaid the trade with compact magazines and a familiar manual of arms for Italian crews. The shared mechanism across M37 and M38 explains the family's persistence in service during and after the war. Thanks for watching. We truly appreciate you spending time here. If you found this video useful, a quick thumbs up and share help a ton. Got ideas for future topics? Drop them in the comments. We're all ears.